Hey everyone, Joe here. So first new episode for a couple weeks. This was the episode that kind of broke me. Everything that could go wrong with this episode pretty much did. Issues finding the clips, couldn't record the clips, had trouble capturing the audio, had to do that over and over again. Issues uploading it to YouTube, got a lot of um basically banning for copyright. Usually, when I just put, hey, this is just for talking and, about life lessons, most things pass through, but a lot of issues with that. So I had to edit the videos a lot and like everything, even like the bit we had issues with. So just, this was the episode that broke me. I think everything sounds good and looks good in here, but yeah, just so you know.
This episode of No Time Like Joe Time is sponsored by Fate in Flames on Kindle Vella. Rena has grown up sheltered and cut off from the world, caring for her ailing mother. When fate catches up with her, she is thrust into a world of magic and intrigue she never knew existed, and the heritage she is not quite sure of. Read Fate in Flames on Kindle Vella.
Welcome to No Time Like Joe Time, where TV gets deep for no reason. I'm Generic Joe, here to say the same thing each time before you listen to an episode. You can find No Time Like Joe Time wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. I'm just that generous and kind of a guy. Please rate, please like, subscribe, and comment, because I'm magic. It also really helps grow the show, and I love the conversations I'm having. So maybe you can help your old friend Joe. Now, if you, and I mean just you, want to be a guest, you can email me at notimelikejoetime@gmail.com. Love to have you on, figure out what show you like, and then we'll have a meaningful discussion. All right, let's get to the episode.
Like what you are listening to? Check out Lazenlo on Spotify Music, a new and upcoming local band from Minnesota.
Welcome to No Time Like Joe Time, where TV gets deep for no reason. Each week, I look at different clips that hit way too close to reality, and we find creepy meanings out of them. Each week, I find a new guest to walk with me through this terrifying experience. This week, I'm very excited for my guest. He is the CEO of the Down to Business podcast, CMO director at a health and wellness company, Beyond the Bar. Very excited. Please welcome Tamar Turner.
Right. Thank you so much for having me, Joe. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for being here. I tell you, ever since I watched the Black Mirror, like I kind of get this weird sense that it's more than just a show. You know what I mean? Just kind of.
I get that. Now, for sure. How are your spirits?
Good. Yeah, they're good. That's
okay.
funny.
I mean, I just think you just had such an incredible journey. I really enjoyed the episode with Zach. He was really funny. Yeah. You talking to your brother at all lately, or?
Okay, you're gonna think this is dumb, but you sound a lot like my mom. I mean, I've been seeing things glitch here. Do you know Janet Kleberg?
Not that I know of, no.
Oh, what's going on with the screen? What the heck, Mom? What's going on? Was this you the whole time?
I'm so sorry, handsome.
How is this even possible?
Well, I found some AI software in the voice changer, and the rest is obvious.
No, it isn't.
I didn't mean to upset you. I just know your podcast was really struggling, and I wanted to be, some guests who could help you out.
Okay, I wouldn't say it was struggling. I'd just say wait, guests? You were more than one guest?
Well, yes, a few others.
Mom, how long have you been impersonating guests?
Well, not long, just since after Morgan's episode.
Morgan's episode? That was episode 3. This has been you all along?
Well, I just wanted to help. I mean, it's been very disappointing, and people keep asking me, when's Joe gonna put out a good episode? So I knew you would need my help, and who better to help? And listen, I only did it because your episodes were bad. Really, really, really bad. I mean, just stinkers, just sad and depressed. It makes me wonder, did you have a terrible childhood and this is your revenge on the world?
Holy shit, Moms. Just stop. And why do you only have a photo of yourself on Zoom?
I can't figure out how to turn on the video.
Jeez, Mom. So you figured out this AI stuff, but you can't figure out how to turn on video for Zoom. It's like we just couldn't coordinate it at times, so I just edited you in. When I thought of this bit, I was on my couch with my wife, and I was just kind of getting stuff ready, and I just because I love self-deprecating humor.
Yeah.
So with like looking at your kind of intro and some of the stuff you got going on, you got your hand on the business world. Do you feel like you're pretty business savvy? I don't know if that's the right word.
Yeah, I would say, I think I'm starting to more so learn the business element and the business aspect of things. Being that I've been a podcaster for 5 years, I recently just LLC'd the business though. So as of January of this year, 2024, we are now officially an LLC. But it was interesting kind of coming in and really just wanting to really get the content out there, wanting to get episodes out, and not really realizing that I am a business, I am a brand. And it wasn't until conversations with friends that I had that they were like, yo, like this is, yeah, you're Tamar, like this is what you do, but you're also a brand just the same. So you carry yourself that way, you brand yourself in that regard. So I would say since then, I've definitely been honing in on just the business, being professional, separating my personal from down to business, and really trying to progress from there.
Yeah. I'm wondering, like, once you kind of entered into it, you were like, oh, I kind of had an act for this all along, because it's like my brother, he was a salesman. He was a great salesman. And we look back when we used to play Monopoly as kids, he could get me to trade anything with him. He's like, you don't want Boardwalk and Broadway. That's too much. Here, just take this one railroad. I'm like, you're right. That's good. So I'm wondering if you had that where you're like, oh yeah, I see. I have always been good at this.
Yeah, it was definitely a aha moment in a sense. Like I've always loved public speaking, always loved the ability and the opportunity to just be able to connect and network with people, but never would have really envisioned a business podcast. More so, I was doing sports, and growing up, that was always what I wanted to do, have my own show. My TV never left ESPN and Sports Center growing up. So it was really just that. But I would say once I really looked at my network, looked at who I was surrounded by, looked at what everybody was doing. And on top of the pandemic, I feel like it was a newfound sense of like motivation for people. Some people were laid off, didn't really know what was next. So they had to kind of move in their own way. Once I realized that so many people were just in business and doing different things, I said, well, let me talk to these people. Let me hear these stories. I already like telling stories anyway. So why not just do it on a platform, do it in front of others, and allow people to meet one another all around the world?
Oh, that's awesome. I think I always think there's something so cool about like driving connection.
Yeah.
And I think just like doing this podcast, like I've got to meet a lot of really cool people, and it's fun to meet them, but it's also really fun to be like, oh, you know who you should talk to? You should talk to this person and connect those, make those connections happen. Yeah. And then your new position, is that a new position?
Yes, so it'll be, as of this past Wednesday, we just made 3 weeks. Yes, so
Oh wow.
fairly new, so working it into the schedule, figuring some things out. But yeah, I was grateful enough to become the chief marketing officer for Beyond the Bar. So funny thing about that company, it was really something where my cousin connected us. And originally I thought it was a connection as a result of wanting to be on the podcast. We were talking about
Yeah.
podcast, so collaboration, the CEO coming on, we sitting down, we talking, we figuring
Oh
out everything
wow.
like that. And then eventually, there were some things going on the back end with him and the company, and he had some openings and some opportunity available. So he presented it to me. And 2 interviews later, yeah, I was the chief marketing officer. So that was
Oh
that was really cool. That was really cool.
yeah. How cool is that? That like just you're using your platform and like it you shine in it
Yeah,
to for people to say, wow, look at this. He's got something going on. And I think that's a testament to like when you do what you love
yes.
and just you kind of bring your authentic self, it just excels. So I think that's such a cool story.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
We definitely pride ourselves on authenticity. So yeah, that was really just it. I can't really um I love when the pieces fall how they may. And a lot of times we step into, just blessings that were unexpected or
Yeah.
just places that we may not have known. So, but I definitely do agree with, like you said, when you just love something, when it's just you through and through, it'll always shine through.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And I love the idea too of things that bring us connection.
Hmm.
And I feel like one of the other things that I feel like people really like there's this community with is horror.
Hmm.
Like there's a lot of people who just like there's a lot of like cult classics with horror movies and scary stuff. How are you with like the horror genre? Do you watch a lot of horror shows, videos, or not much?
That's funny that you asked that. Horror is actually one of my favorite genres. So
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
I would say I watch a good amount of it. I try to figure out what's scary, what's not. I more so try to go to the movie theater just to really get that full effect of
Yeah.
it. But yeah,
Hmm.
if I'm going on or searching something or trying to get a recommendation, horror will definitely be up there within the
Yeah.
top of genres.
Nice. And have you ever heard of Dead Meat?
Mm-mm.
It's a great YouTube channel.
Okay.
He's got something called the Kill Count,
Okay.
and he goes through these horror movies,
Yeah.
counts the kills, but also goes a deep dive into how they were made,
Wow.
behind the scenes. It's really good. So if you're a horror fan,
I'm gonna check
definitely
that
worth
out.
check it out.
Okay, for sure.
So that brings us to Black Mirror.
Yes.
Uh Black Mirror, I is one of the most unsettling shows I think I've seen. I'm just curious, what's your history with it, and what made you kind of want to choose this?
So I guess I have a two-part history with Black Mirror. So it being coming back out in 2011, I don't think I hopped on it right when it came out.
Right.
I was always like growing up, I was always a person who I haven't, there are a lot of shows and there are a lot of movies and things that people have probably watched or would ask me if I've watched, and I haven't. And
Yeah.
so in some cases I would get the funny looks, the raised eyebrows and everything like that. So Black Mirror was something where when it first came out, I didn't necessarily hop right onto it. But after I keep hearing people talking about it, I was going to school and that's what all the kids were talking about, football practice, everybody was just talking about it. I
Yeah.
eventually started to watch it. And
Mhm.
when I first watched it, everybody kept saying, hey, the episodes are really weirdly added. You don't have to start in a particular place. Hey, I started on season 5, I started on
Yeah.
season 3. So originally I didn't want to watch. I'm just like, why is everybody starting at different places, random spots, starting at the beginning, watch here, watch this. The episode names were different. So I was just like, okay, but I'm a don't knock it till you try type of person. So I
Yeah.
dove into it myself. And I was starstruck from like the
Yeah.
first episodes. I was watching through everything. And before you know it, I was moving through, I was done. And so
Yeah.
now I'm going back to school. I'm participating with these discussions, and it's really cool. I'm waiting on the next seasons to come out, waiting on the next episodes to come out, rewatching episodes, looking some things up to make sense of it. And that was everything. So that was really my first part, like the high school me, really just trying to learn some things going into college, even rewatching it in college and
Yeah.
things like that. Now, the second part I would say comes in with the podcast. So
Mhm.
oftentimes I tell people that I consider my podcast the Black Mirror of podcasts. The
Oh,
reason
interesting.
why is because you don't have to start at a particular episode. Whereas most podcasts, you would follow the journey, you would go from episode
Yeah.
all the way through. Mine, you can start at 22, you can start at 85, you can start at 174.
Yeah.
and you won't miss a beat. It's more so just about what you want to hear, what industry, what niche you're interested in. So I tell people, look, we're a little bit strange in that regard, that you
Yeah.
can hop all around and go through it in your own order, which I like about the show.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I agree. And that's, I like that. The idea of, I mean, those are some of my favorite podcasts. Just pick up wherever. I first got into it. I had a friend at work. He was telling me about the history of you, which we
Mhm.
actually have one of the clips is with that.
Mhm.
And I watched it. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is terrifying. But I think it's one of the shows that just so uncomfortable because sometimes they mirror reality so close.
Right.
And you're like, I feel like we're one step away from that.
Right.
And yeah, so that just creepy. So the first clip we have that I think will be good. It's from the clip or from the show, History of Us. So basically, the context for people who haven't seen it
Mhm.
is there's this new technology that you're able to implant, basically like a camera that records everything in your life. So you can go back and relive any moment.
Mhm.
And our main character, he just got out of a job interview.
Mhm.
And so now he's in the car and we'll see what happens.
Okay, great. This has been really great, Liam. We really hope to look forward to seeing you again. Liam, we really hope to look forward to seeing you again.
Boy, I that's one of the just too close to reality things because I do that all the time.
Right.
Like especially with job interviews,
Mhm.
I walk out like nailed it. Man, I can't believe they didn't just offer me the job right there and then. And then as time goes on, like psychoanalyze it. I'm like, wait, but did I do a good job? Well,
Right. Right. Right.
were they just being nice? And so I can't imagine watching that
Mhm.
like physically. And uh yeah, I don't want to spoil the ending, but the ending is what I fear about having this.
Facts.
What were some of your takeaways on that?
Yeah, no, it so immediately that episode reminded me of the how people say sometimes when you get into like an argument or a debate and you think of your best stuff when it's over. And that was kind of that thing, like, how you ever like, and I immediately just laughed about it just because, we always have that. We always have like a debate where
Yeah,
we come across a fact or, oh, I should have said that, or you're doing something totally random, totally different away from the interview or the debate or anything. And then it just hits you. So to
yeah,
be able to in real time, yeah. And it made me start to think about a lot of the in-person interviews that I've sat on. And especially when it's
yeah,
more than one person, I feel like those can be very overwhelming when you're trying to make sure that you have the eye contact, you're
right.
engaged, that
Yeah,
you're focusing, but you're giving everybody their
yeah,
attention. They're all staring at you for different reasons and different things. So I definitely agree with you though. It's always just like you get up, you walk out, you shake the hands, you're just like, oh, I'm all good. You walk out that door, you're feeling confident. And then
yeah,
as soon as you get in the car, you start to just think about everything. Like, wow,
yeah.
was that a firm handshake? Was the resume proper? Did I do this? Did I
Hmm.
tell them thank you for having me? It's always just that
Yeah,
psychoanalysis. So that episode was, like you said, one of those that really hit close to home for me.
yeah. And you being in the podcast world too, do you do editing or does somebody else help with
Oh
editing?
no, I do the
Do-
editing,
So
unfortunately.
I that's like kind of the closest I feel to this where I'm rewatching it. I'm now like really watching the guests' reaction. I'm like, oh my gosh. And there was one particular I had a hard time editing. I ended up making it really humorous, but I was doing a bit with somebody. It was the first person I did who I didn't know.
Mhm.
Like my first 11 guests were all friends or acquaintances.
Gotcha.
And this was the first person who like I met off Facebook.
Mhm.
And I was so nervous. And we were doing a bit and she was a professor and I was kind of doing a bit where I just thought I was way more than I was. So I was like, well, I'm basically a professor. And she goes, oh, I didn't know you were a professor. And keep in mind, I have the script up in front of me. I wrote the script. That's what she was supposed to say. But I go, oh, no, no, no. It's just part of the bit. It's not real. And she goes, I know. I'm reading the script. And I was like, ah.
There it
And
is.
so when I was having to edit it, I was like, okay, I'm just going to take that off and we'll pretend like it never happened. But what I ended up doing, I actually left it in and I recorded another scene where I jump in and I'm like, hey, editing Joe here. And basically say what I just said. Let's see what recording Joe does.
Right,
And
right.
then shows it and then comes back to editing Joe just so it ended up being like a really funny bit. But so yeah, I that's the closest. And I don't know. It's just and I don't know. Have you ever had like you've gone to a trip, you've gone somewhere fun, or you've seen some friends, and the end has come? For me, I've had times where I'm in such pain. I'm like, I just want to start over.
Yeah.
I just want to start from the beginning. And I think having this capability to watch it, I don't know how forward in my life I could move.
Yeah. No, I even experienced that more recently in April. My boy got married, and so I was a groomsman in the wedding, and so we had just all linked up for the first time in a while, and some of us haven't seen each other since like high school or like a little bit after that. So it was cool. But I always tell people how I know I really enjoyed myself, how I know I really had fun was when the weekend, the day is Sunday is slowly approaching, or Monday is approaching. Those people are getting ready for the flights. Everybody's packing up, checking out the hotels, and it's just like an eerie silence. Not like nobody had a bad,
Yeah.
but it's just like that. Everybody gets that somber mood, and everybody knows that we have to go away, go our separate ways. And it's like, wow, like I'm genuinely sad right now. Like I had a great time. I definitely enjoyed this, but wow, like I wish I could do this again, or wow, I wish we could fast forward. You're telling me it's Sunday, or we went through all of that just
Right.
that's because you were just that much in the moment. So no, I've definitely had situations like that where you just don't want something to happen, or you just want to fast forward or
Yeah.
rewind so that you don't have to fast forward. I can agree.
Yeah, exactly. And something that just kind of clicked is the idea of would this keep us so stuck in our past
Mhm.
that we couldn't go to our future? And I think even without this, I think some of us do get stuck in our past.
For sure.
Especially like so I'm a huge advocate of like just making mental health normal to talk about.
Absolutely.
And I know for me with like my mental health struggles, there's times where like I was doing well and then I don't do well. And I'm like, I want to go back to this.
Mhm.
And I realize I can't.
Mhm.
I have to start a new me almost.
Mhm.
And you can't go back. And so I don't know do you think that would make, I'm just trying to think like real world consequences for this. Like our exes never moving on from each other because they just keep replaying that, or I don't know. What do you think would be the scariest aspect if this was in reality?
Oh, I think definitely from a relationship perspective, or even a mistake perspective. You keep thinking about that what if I didn't do this, what if I just would have went straight home, or what if I wouldn't have said that, or what if I wouldn't have taken that turn instead of doing this. So yeah, I feel like from a certain perspective, especially from a mental health aspect, like it would eat at us almost, because even with the things that we have in the memory bank now, the
Yeah.
experiences and just the times that we've had, both good and bad, we collect those in a sense, whether we willingly collect those, unwillingly. Sometimes it's things that are just inadvertently just in there, like that psychic, almost like
Yeah.
a that's so Raven moment. But
Yeah.
I definitely do think
As
it
we begin,
could
the
it
main
could hinder
character
a
is
lot,
climbing the
because you're
lights,
constantly just thinking
and
about,
she
you're
is trying to find
even
ways
apprehensive
to
about
get more
moving
likes as
forward or
she's
doing
looking
certain
at it
things
on
in
a
a certain way,
friend
because you
who
can't
is
get that
very
last
happy
moment out your head, or you
when
can't get
one of
what
her
happened last
coworkers
time from out
approaches
of your
her.
brain. So I definitely do think it could be scary if truly implemented, only
Mm.
because I feel like it's implemented now, but we don't even really realize it.
Mm.
Sometimes we'll try to move forward. Sometimes we try
Right.
not to think about certain things or etch it from our mind completely. But if we knew that we just had a button and we could just take it back a
Yeah.
little, that'd be pretty dangerous.
Right, exactly. And when I was watching this kind of led to the next clip. I'm like, in some ways, there's a little bit of this with social media
Yes.
where like a Facebook message will come up for like 15 years ago. And like 15-year-old Joe was being very cryptic. Was like, today I bear the burden, but I continue on. I'm like, what disapproved? What's he talking about?
Right. Right.
And just kind of like, and so it leads to our next clip. This was another one that was so unsettling for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think this probably so far has been the most just like, oh god, it just so close to reality. And so the setup to this is in a world where your social media ranking reigns supreme. The more higher your ranking, the more opportunities there are. The lower your ranking, the less opportunities you have. And so it was funny. I was telling my wife about this. I was like, yeah, this whole episode's about like, how your social media impacts your life. And so it's just led to like fake interactions of just trying to look good and pretending like everything's great. And she goes, oh, so like in real life. And I'm like, yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna show this clip. I had troubles uploading this, so I'm gonna play it on Netflix. You will probably just see a black screen.
Okay.
But at least we'll be able to get the audio. Before I play, I should say. So the scene here is the main character, Claire from Jurassic Park or World. She is working at an office, and somebody comes to offer a drink who is not high rated. And we'll see the kind of result of this interaction.
Lacey, got you a smoothie. Got one for everyone, actually. Still a bunch of them for grabs. They're from the organic stall at the farmer's market?
Sure. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're kind of not talking to Jess.
3.1? What happened?
Him and Gordon split up.
Oh, poor Jess.
No. We're all on Gordon's side.
Sure. Obviously.
So Jess is kissing ass, trying to scrape himself back. Of course, if he drops below 2.5, then it's bye-bye.
That just scene is so tough because I think with social media, it has driven like, no, this is what we're doing now.
Yeah.
We don't like them, and it becomes a mob mentality. And there were a few clips I was going to play on this. This whole episode is just filled with commentary. But I just, that idea that you don't even want to associate with somebody because of how it will look and the fakeness that comes with it. And it's true. Well, actually, okay, let me take a step back. I know where I'm thinking with this now. So, story I'll never forget is, so years ago, decades ago, I don't even know how many people still hear the story, but when I was a kid growing up, I heard a story of this lady who was at McDonald's who spilled coffee on herself, and she ended up suing McDonald's. And everybody was like, that's so ridiculous. Like, this lady's just trying to get money. She did it on her own. And just like, I remember watching late night shows where they were making fun of her, all this stuff. Well, I finally found a deep dive on what was going on. And what it was a senior woman. She got coffee. She did spill it, but there was a like legal level of how hot the coffee could be.
I remember this story. Yeah.
And McDonald's was way above it. And so she had like second degree burns, had to go to the hospital. And all she wanted was McDonald's to cover that bill.
Yeah.
That is it. And it ended up going bigger, but just about how that narrative was formed. It just, I think it mirrors this really well. What are some of your takeaways?
Yeah, I'm in full agreement that we could have played the whole episode really from start to finish, and you would have just saw those just interactions, just how much it mirrors what we're here today. No pun intended, but how that it even kind of, I think why I approached this episode how I did was because I went to school and worked ultimately and interned ultimately in news. And with news, it's all about the narrative. It's all about where you're getting it from. It's all about who's the first to break it, but it's also about being trustworthy and reliable.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times, like you said, that headline, some people see that woman and not real, and you read the headline and you're like, that's foolish, that's silly. But when you take a deeper dive into it, if you decide to take a deeper dive into it and just do some outside research, you'll see what happened and you'll see really what she wanted. And so I think a lot of times that's literally what social media is today. That first headline, or when you refresh your shade rooms or your TMZ,
sure.
sources that have it, and instead of us just getting on Google or opening up another web page or taking a deeper dive into it, we just take that for what it is false, not knowing sometimes these headlines get deleted. Sometimes people apologize. Sometimes people are sued as a result of just wanting to be the first to break things and not having all the sources necessary. So, but it also gave too, like, people just don't think. People just, once they went to the sides and she was just like, we're on Jesse's side. No, we're actually not. Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. Sorry.
Yeah.
And like, it's taken away the autonomy of just independent thinking. And I think that's scary just the same too, because it's just like, if somebody can easily just sway you like that, and that's not really what you think or what you feel, then how much of your life are you living like that? So this episode was it almost became annoying at some points, because it was just like, wow, like, is this really like a great episode, a great concept, but it's just like, wow, is this really how it is? And then once it ends and you really just kind of take a step back, you're like, this really is social media. Like, granted, some things were dramatized a bit,
right,
ratings and things, but this is really a great depiction of what the world is looking like.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. And it's, the other bit I liked, there's a scene she's kind of having a fight with her brother. And he's basically like, this is all fake. Like, they're just pretending to be happy. And they're probably having like suicidal thoughts, whenever. Behind the scenes. And what's sad is there's definitely truth to that. Where, I'm reading more and more studies of these negative impacts that are coming out of social media, of people who are, what's YouTube's word? Unaliving themselves, I think, because they're just not getting those numbers, and they're so obsessed getting that it kind of wrecks them. And
it's become a social media dependent world for sure. And it was just, a lot of times too, it could also even go to it makes you question, did he get those smoothies just because he wanted a higher rating? Did he really want to do a good deed? Did he really do something, or did he more so was just thinking about the points and what comes with that? And it makes you look at that way the whole episode. Like, are people just going out of their way to be seen, to be heard, to be rated, to be popular, in a sense, instead of really doing what they would do on a normal basis?
Right, exactly. And the other impact to that is, what else is coming out is the psychological effect of kids growing up, like when their parents are basically doing the YouTube channel and they're just taking the kids in.
Right.
and making them do it. And so it kind of, they're like, it's kind of like, we did all this work to protect kids in like the film industry.
Mhm.
You don't have that here. These
Right.
kids might not see a cent ever for everything they're doing.
Truly.
And it's just this, I don't know. It's just so much to like take in. And I think that's why this episode made me so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because it voiced all the things that can happen. And I think one of the creepier ones too is when she's in the elevator with that other lady and they're having these conversations, and you can feel the fakeness. And because I know some people who are like that.
Right.
And I'm like, I want to see you, the authentic you.
Yeah.
And so
and it was even some points where they were just on the phones.
Yeah.
Like they weren't even really looking up or talking too much. It was kind of just a quick glance. Okay, I'll do that. Or they rated based off of how the other person rated.
Right.
And it also goes to show too, just it's not genuine. And it's just like really, because I don't really like the term reciprocating energy per se. I think that you should just be a person who gives your energy at all times. If it's not received, if it's not returned, if it's not given at all, then you can't help that. You can't help being a good person, and that somebody wasn't a good person. So it was, you heard a lot and you were able to see a lot as far as like just how it affects people, but how fast it affects people. I think that was the thing. Some people, it didn't even take any time to sway or convey or persuade. It was just that instant. So that's the scary part too.
Right, definitely. And I also like their conversation revolved around what was on their social media feed.
Right.
So there was no really trying to get to know each other. It's just like, how's your cat? Oh, how's this? And I think that too is something where if we're just looking at social media, like there's another one too, where husband dies and they have an android replace him and they upload all the social media stuff to his head. And it's like, it's not really him.
Right.
And so I kind of feel that with this, like, it's not fully us. And I'm somebody like who grew up thinking I was the only one who struggled. And now like I'm on a mission to like show that's not true.
Right.
And like I posted one of my panic attacks a couple of years ago into social media because I'm like, this is reality sometimes. And so I mean, it's so good. If you haven't seen Black Mirror, you really need to check it out.
It's one of those shows.
Yeah.
It's really great. And some episodes you might not resonate with, some things you just may not like, some things may just be a little bit too creepy for you, which I understand. Like, I'm not saying I was this diehard fan of everything. There were some things where I was just, okay, I could have done without. But if you think about the episodes from a, not necessarily contextually how they did it, who's in the role, but from a bigger theme, from a bigger picture perspective, because there's a lesson in every single episode. Sometimes they even foreshadow towards it or talk about it or even give some details towards the end. But it's definitely one of those shows where it was just like they were spot on. They even predicted some things like to come to fruition, to come true, to be what they are, to be as prevalent as they are today. But it's definitely one of those shows where it's just like, wow, like if you, even from the episode names themselves, it was really cool. But it was a show that, like I said, it took me a little bit longer to get into. And I think that's really what hooked me in the most because I was hearing all these things. I was so confused by it. I came in with my own preconceived notions. Once I really sat down and watched it, I was like, wow, it was one of those shows where I was like, where has this been all my life?
Yeah, exactly. And what I like about it too, because there's not a lot of like happy endings.
Yeah, for sure.
And for a while, we were talking about horror at the beginning. For a long time, I wasn't a horror fan. And what kind of started to change is when I was listening to people who liked horror. And one of the people were saying, what I like about horror is there's not a lot of happy endings. And because in life, there's not always happy endings.
Very true.
And just to be able to watch something that sits in, things didn't end well. That's why I like it. I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And so I kind of do like this where we always just want to think things will work out, but if things aren't watched, I mean, there may not be a happy ending.
Very true.
So, is there anything about these clips we haven't covered that you think will be good points to bring up, or anything else you want to dive into?
Honestly, I feel like one even segued into the other. So no, I
Yeah.
really think that we did take just a deeper dive into both, but also just I like the self-reflection that we can realize how they're basically being attributed in today's society and what
Yeah.
really this looks like. And even this bigger picture, and even the show that came out nearly 13 years ago, how it really just was able to tell, or was able even just to notice trends and things like that that were going on and happening,
Yeah.
and I'll kind of push it here. So no, I think both clips were very timely. I think they were both very relevant. And no, I love the discussion that we had
Yeah.
around both of them, and really just how they relate to the world that
Yeah.
we're in right now.
Yeah, exactly. No, they were great. I feel like I could do just a marathon of different clips from this show. But yeah, so I got 3 questions I ask every guest.
Okay.
So my first question is, which clip did you think was more unsettling?
Definitely the social media one. Just
Yeah.
because I feel like, it's almost like it's really like a ranking system, like a
Yeah.
hierarchy. I feel like for a lot of there are even parts in our life where we feel like we're ranked now, whether it be at our own job, whether it be from a gender thing, a socioeconomic status, anything like that. So I feel like it was really kind of going to show that just that status, and just that
Yeah.
how the opportunities, or how a way of life or a way of living may not be allotted to you
Yeah.
because of who you are, what others think of you, or
Yeah.
maybe what you did or didn't do, or did or didn't say. So
Right.
that one, just because, yeah, it was just like, wow, it's really showing the fake of the
Yeah.
world, the fake
Right.
of that are directly in your face, people who you're interacting with, people who are amongst you, who you work with, live around, everything.
Yeah. I agree. I think right now what's kind of going on that kind of like hit me, and like I'm not I just want to bring this topic up because I think it's relevance, just kind of like this divide on what's going on with the Harry Potter franchise.
Yeah.
And just where it's like tricky is if there's somebody who hasn't really been paying attention and they're like post on social media, like, can't wait to do a Harry Potter marathon, that they could now be targeted
Right.
because they're watching something somebody else, doesn't like. And again, I'm not here to say like, oh no, that's right or wrong. I'm just,
Mhm.
it reminds me of, we can watch these episodes and be like, well, that's not going to be me.
Right.
But there's a Simpsons quote from Homer Simpson, which is, everybody is stupid but me. And I think we all sometimes have that mentality. We don't think it's going to impact us.
Right.
It's kind of the when you're in a traffic jam, you're
Mhm.
not stuck in traffic. You are traffic.
Right.
It's second question is, which clip did you think we got a more meaningful conversation out of? And a tie is acceptable.
I'm not gonna lie, I think it's a tie, because I feel like I definitely do think that we could relate to a lot of different things with the interview, because I think it went more than just the interview. I think, and that's another reason why I like Black Mirror, because while they shed light on an interview in that situation, this really just goes to a broader spectrum. Because I told you, for me, the first tie that I had was the arguments or the debates and thinking about the best things when it's over. So no, I'm definitely gonna have to tie both of those, because I feel like we can relate to them in different sectors and different ways life. So yeah, and obviously with social media, that's just something that we go through now, from the likes, the followers, the reposts, the views, the algorithm. So yeah, I was liking discussions for sure.
Yep, I agree. I don't think I could pick one, because they related to each other. They almost mirrored each other.
Literally.
Where like one of them is, they're both same concept.
Mhm.
And just yeah, so I agree. Between the two clips, if we had to do a deep dive
Mhm.
and just like analyze every little part of it, take every little nugget,
Mhm.
which clip would you pick?
Oh, definitely social media.
Yeah.
because I feel like it would unveil so many, even in just the clip that we watched and the discussions that we were able to have in the dive that we were able to take, and just the principles and what we were able to realize. I feel like really uncovering that episode, man, you could do a dissertation on it,
Yeah.
honestly, about just how much substance there was in there from beginning to end, because there were so many different scenarios and there were
Yeah.
so many different scenes and little innuendos, and
Yeah.
if, like you said, the elevator versus the
Yeah.
spooky scene versus the, so
Yeah.
there was a lot of with that episode that you can really just tell, and especially
Yeah.
from the main character's perspective. But you could also just flip things. You could do it
Yeah.
from the coworker who was bringing the smoothies. You could do it from the other interactions, from the gas station interaction. So it could be
Yeah.
a little bit of everything. But I think
Right.
that you could truly open it up, and the,
Yeah.
the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Because like one thing, you could go deep on is she was kind of trying to read the room of what to do. She was like, oh, she grabs it. People are staring. Oh, like trying to figure out what it was. And it reminds me of this. There's a Rick and Morty episode where Morty gets something in his head where he can see the future.
Mhm.
And so he's trying to like navigate to do what he gets his perfect ending with this girl. So he's in the court and he's like, and he like, once he sees the future, he starts saying that word.
Mhm.
And so he has no idea what he's talking about. He's just doing what he thinks he needs to do to get to the destination. And I just feel like there's a whole conversation on that. Just like, oh, right now the trend is, I'm going to pick up something dumb. It's not to like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Okay, I guess so. I may have a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles painting right here. So
There it is.
awesome. Well, I would like to give you a little bit of time just to kind of talk about where can people find you, what
Sure.
you all got going on, and anything else close to your heart.
Oh, perfect. Well, Joe, thank you. Well, first and foremost, thank you for the
Of
time. Thank you
course.
for having me on this platform. I love the concept of the podcast. I love
Thanks.
to, obviously, I love anything with TV or just humor, action, anything like that. But when you really just get to put it together, take a deeper dive, and really just talk about even some commonalities within life and just between you and I really did enjoy that. So thank you
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah,
So
of course.
with the podcast, so with me, I am the CEO. I am the host of Down to Business podcast. So down the number 2 and then business. So you can find us pretty much everywhere: Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, wherever anything. And then as far as the podcast itself, like Apple, iHeartRadio, Google, Spotify, all your places where you listen to it, more than likely will be on there. So with the podcast itself, we do have an episode out right now, 183, the wealth transformation. So really just talking about decentralized finance, cryptocurrency, how you can really just get ahead in this space, learn some things, make some money as a result. We do have a grant that's running now. So the Down to Business grant, it'll be running all the way through June 30th. But I'm basically just awarding one business owner, one entrepreneur, creative, the opportunity to win $1,000. The application is fairly simple, straightforward, and I'm just wanting to do this in honor of my mom and really just keep it going, continue to move throughout the years and things like that. So just feeling like blessing somebody, and definitely want to be able to do that. And then the last thing is that I'm always just willing to connect with other podcasters, other creatives, anybody out there who may just be listening in the audience that enjoyed the episode and would love to just sit down and chat. I'm all for it. So definitely just feel free to reach out. I'll definitely pass all my information along to Joe, and whatever we can do as far as that goes, just let me know. We definitely share a love for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yeah, we can do that just the same. But again, Joe, like I said, thank you so much for the time. I really do appreciate the platform.
Yeah, of course. And what I always like to say is, what's so special for me is to meet just very cool people who are doing cool things.
Yeah.
And what I always call out to, people who are listening is, we all want to see the world get a little better. And I think one of the ways is finding those who are making the world a little better and support them. So like Tamar, I think you're doing that. I think you're putting a lot of really good stuff out there that needs to be. I think, it's important I love everything I hear people do. Like they'll be like, yeah, I created a nuclear reactor in my basement because of YouTube and just all this stuff. So it's great that somebody who is, I used to be in production management and I just fed on podcasts like yours, just where there's so much to learn. So I always say, what's better than supporting a cool company? Supporting a cool company with good people in it. So
Like
that's but yeah, well, thank you. I so appreciate your time and your insight and for picking Black Mirror. I've been hoping somebody would pick that for so long.
There it is.
So good choice. And yeah, and for everybody else, thank you for watching. And we'll see you next time.